Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Tim, and today I am doing a playthrough of Knights over Stalingrad. This is a game that's going to be coming out sometime in the future, designed by Dan Monette, developed by Terry Simo, artwork by Ian Wedge, and it will be published by Legion Wargames. I want to point out that the artwork in the Vassal module here is prototype artwork. The actual production artwork is still being finalized, so that will be a little bit different from what you're seeing here once the game comes out. And also, there are a few game mechanisms that are still being tweaked as far as point scoring and a few of those things to try to balance things a little more. Still being finalized here in the playtesting stages, so once the product comes out, it might be slightly different from what you see here, but this should give you a pretty good overview of what to expect. This game is I guess you could say a follow-on to Aces of Valor. If you're familiar with that game, you'll see a lot of similarities in the combat system and stuff in this game. I was approached by Dan probably a couple months ago now, I guess, after he had watched my playthrough of Skies Above Britain, and he asked if I'd be interested in doing a video playthrough of this game. So I've been kind of working with him over the last couple months, playing through a couple of campaigns on my own just to get familiar with the game, and helping out with making some suggestions and stuff. So ready now to start my official video playthrough of this. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so this game is it's World War II aerial combat, focused on the area around Stalingrad after the encirclement of the Sixth Army by the Russians as part of their Operation Uranus. And basically, you're flying a squadron of either Bf 109s or Bf 110s, or you can also play as the Romanians with either Bf 109s or IAR 80s, and flying in support of the resupply efforts to the 8th Army, who's trapped there just outside of Stalingrad. So what we're going to be playing this time is you have your choice, like I said, of several different squadrons that you can play the campaign as. I'm going to be doing the German Bf 109 JG3 Staffel, which is based at Morosovsky, right here. And it begins, well, you have your choice. So in this game, you can play either what they call a short campaign, which is 10 days, a medium campaign, which is 15 days, or a long campaign, which would be the entire, basically from either the 23rd or the 24th through to the 27th of December. For the campaign we've selected, the earliest you can start is the 24th. I'm going to be playing a short campaign, so we're going to do 10 days. So we'll be starting on the 24th of November, and then going through, I guess that would be 5 through the 3rd of December. So each day you draw a mission card, which will dictate what your objectives are for that day. And so we'll be going through 10 of those. Just to kind of give you a little roadmap here, I guess, of the gaming space. We have the campaign map here. This is where you'll track the location of your squadron as they're flying to and from their target sector. As I said, we'll be based out of Morosovsky here. This these 9 sectors here represent the cauldron, as they called it, which is that area of encirclement. Potomnik and Gumrak are the 2 German-controlled airfields inside there where the 8th Army is located. We've also got the approaches here, which are entryways into the cauldron and out of the cauldron. Over here we've got just a place to hold your current mission card and any event cards that might get drawn as you're flying to and from your target location. This is the turn track. You'll notice there's some symbols on here that represent there are specific historic missions that can be chosen depending on which squadron you're flying as on these specific days, and they're denoted here. Our particular squadron doesn't have any date-specific missions other than these yellow shield icons here represent Axis ground attack missions. So any of the Axis squadrons that you choose, when we get to those days, we can either choose to just draw a random mission, or we can choose to fly an historic mission that actually occurred on those dates. Down here we have the weather chart and just a marker to keep track of the weather. Weather has different effects throughout the game, which we'll see as we go along. And then here's the morale track. So the game uses a excuse me, morale point system to track basically how well or how poorly you're doing. It can be positive or negative. As you fly each mission, you'll earn mission points, which we'll track with these black markers here. And then at the end of the mission, you can spend those to either purchase campaign points, which are your overall campaign morale, or so that could cause it to go up or down. Or they can also be spent for things like repairing aircraft, replacing aircraft, that sort of thing. Purchasing dogfight cards, which we'll see here in a little bit as well. So that's kind of the main map board. Sorry, I've got a cough here. Hopefully that'll go away. Next we have the operations map or chart here, which will, this is where I was messing around with some counters here a little earlier. This is where your planes will be placed on this initiative track and this is how the combat is resolved. You can have up to 3 rounds of combat for each encounter. Various cards that you acquire can be kept here, dogfight cards and post-mission cards. And then just some boxes to keep track of the state of various aircraft as you're going throughout the game. These are the damage chits, which will be pulled whenever an aircraft is damaged, and depending on the attacking aircraft's damage rating, you'll use one of these 3 numbers. But we'll get to all that when we actually start playing. I'm not going to go through a whole rules introduction. I'm just going to jump into the game here, and we'll kind of explain things as we go along. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get our Axis home airfield marker out here on Morosovsky. And we need to select, I believe it's 8 pilots. We randomly choose 8 pilots from the available pool here. So we're using the BF-109s here, the German BF-109s. So we can have we choose 8 of them, and up to 3 of them can be these gunboats, or it's actually being retermed to gondolas. A little bit more powerful versions of the BF-109. And so we will definitely take 3 of those. That means we'll get 5 of these. All right, so a little bit about the counters themselves here. Spread out. All right, we got 2 aces. Gunboats. Oops. Yeah, so the reason you're randomly drawing is there's different pilot experience levels on for each of these. The other statistics are all the same for a given type of aircraft. But you'll see here in the hover over here so it's a little easier to see. So on your counter here in the upper right hand corner, you've got the, in this case, a 5-sided red symbol with a 12 in the middle of it. That indicates an ace, and that's going to dictate what type of die that aircraft rolls in combat and for other possible die rolls that it needs to make. So that's going to be a 12-sider that is rolled for that. If you see the one like this with a 4-sided black diamond with a 10 in the middle, that's a veteran pilot, and they will roll a D10. The yellow triangle is an experienced pilot, and they will roll a D8. And fortunately, we didn't draw any, but if it has this green square like this here, that's a green pilot, and they roll a D6. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see their 2-hit numbers. So this aircraft, when it's attacking, will do 1 hit on a 6 or higher. It'll do 8. It'll do 2 hits on an 8 or higher. So if you roll a 6 or 7, you get 1 hit. 8 through 12 in this case, because you're rolling the D12 for an ace, you would inflict 2 hits, and that's where those damage chit markers come into play. Then below that on the left side is their aircraft damage rating. So you'll see that these have an A rating, whereas the regular 109s have a B rating. So these will inflict more damage per hit than the regular 109s. On the lower right hand side is the aircraft performance rating, and that's going to affect where they get placed on the initiative chart. We'll talk about that when we get ready to do that. But basically, higher the better for that performance rating value. All right, so we've got our fighters selected. Next thing we need to do is we've already decided that we're starting on the 24th of November for this campaign. So we can go ahead and start going into the mission sequence. So first we have the pre-mission phase, which will involve rolling for the weather. So we roll a D6, and depending on the result, we'll see what type of weather we're going to have for this mission. So we have rolled a 6, which is going to be heavy clouds. Change this to heavy clouds. And some of the effects that's going to have, if we have an escort mission, it may not necessarily, whether that has a rendezvous, it may not necessarily succeed. We'll have to roll to see if we have a successful rendezvous. Also, combat will be limited to 2 rounds, and there cannot be any wingmen. And also, if we're subject to any flak attacks, either side, there'll be a -2 die roll modifier for that. All right, so that is our weather chosen. Next, we go to the mission setup. So we do not have a calendar date specific mission to choose for this date, so we will just choose a random mission. So these are all the mission cards. You have different cards depending on which squadron you're flying as, and then these are the generic Axis ground attack missions that we'll get to see here in a little bit. All right, so we're flying the Morosovsky JG3 Staffel. So we will draw a mission card from this, and it's going to be air attack on Soviet forces. So we get to bring 3 fighters on this mission. We can choose to take an extra fighter by sacrificing 3 mission points. And then depending on the date will dictate where our what the target sector is going to be. So we are on the 24th of November, so we're going to be going for sector G1. So G1 is up here. We'll get a target waypoint marker and place it there. And so we will need to take off from our home airfield, fly to the target sector, conduct once we get there. Well, before we leave, we'll roll to see what attack aircraft we get to bring along with us. And then once we get over the target sector, we will roll to see what enemy aircraft we're facing once we get there. And there will also be ground target or targets that we will be able to go after. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get our Axis flight marker out here. We're starting at our home field. There is no need to roll for takeoff in this case. Some missions will specify that you have to roll for takeoff. Also, if there's ground fog, you'll have to roll a die to see if you take off successfully. But other than that, takeoff is assumed to be successful. And so now we can go into the flight phase. So during the flight phase, you're allowed to move 1 sector at a time. Now, if your flight or if your squadron consists entirely of fighters, which ours, well, doesn't necessarily at this time, because I just remembered we need to roll to see what we are escorting to this location. So we need to roll on chart D6. I was asked not to show these charts, so you'll have to just trust me that I am looking this up and choosing the right entry. So we're rolling a D6 on chart D6, and we got a 1. So that means that our attackers consist of 2 BF-110s and a D3+2 of JU-87s. Let's see, let's roll a D3 here. We got a 2, so we're going to have 4 JU-87s and 2 BF-110s accompanying us. Well, we're escorting them actually. All right, so let's get those out here as well. Oh, and then we have to choose which 3 fighters we're going to be bringing as well. I think we were technically supposed to do that first. I think we'll obviously bring our... I think we'll just bring our 3 high hitters here. Oh, you know what? Let's bring, because they have a better performance rating, let's bring 1 of our regular 109s. They're all veterans. Okay, so we're bringing our 2 ace gunboat aircraft and then 1 regular 109. Then in addition to that, we're going to have 2 BF-110s. We got a veteran an experienced for those. You'll notice they also hit on a 6 and an 8. They have a performance rating of 5, damage rating of A, and then that little +1 in the circle there. What that means, you can see that down here, if this is readable for you. They get a +1 DRM on damage check die rolls. So basically they're harder to flip. They're a little bit sturdier. All right, and then we had 4 JU87s. Let's just draw all 4 of those at once. And there we go. We did get an ace in there. 2 aces, nice. We got 2 aces, a veteran, and an experienced. So still no green pilots. That's pretty good. And these are our dive bombers. So they'll be going after those ground targets once we reach the target sector. All right, so now that we have our flight in order, now we can begin the flight phase. So as I was starting to say earlier, if your flight consists entirely of fighters, which ours does not, you can choose to move vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. Now, if you move diagonally, you have to add a +1 to your event die roll, which we'll see how that works here in a sec. Since we do not have, or we are not entirely fighters, we do not have that option. So we're going to just fly up due north here to this sector. Now, each time you move to a new sector on the campaign map, you have to do an event roll. And you roll a D10, and then there's a chart. It's chart A. No, not A7. No, it's chart B. Chart B1. Depending on which row, so there's a column for rows 1 through 3. There's a column for rows 4 through 8, and then there's special entries for if you're over the approaches or over the cauldron. But basically, if you roll, when you're out on the main map here, if you roll a 6 or less, if you're in the southern part, or a 5 or less if you're in the northern part, then you won't have a flight event. Otherwise, you can possibly have to roll again on the flight event outcome table, or if you roll high enough, you'll draw an event card. All right, so we will roll a D10. We got a 7. So because we're in row 4, a 7 is going to translate to a flight event. So we roll again on chart B2. And then again, based on where we're at, which we're in rows 4 through 8, we rolled a 2, which a 2 or a 3 means we've come across enemy stragglers. So we will now look to chart C11. And on chart C11, we'll roll a D6. We got a 3, which means we have come across 2 here we go. I was looking at the wrong row. It was like HE111s. That doesn't make sense. 2 A20s. And then we have the option of either engaging them or evade them at our discretion. If we choose to engage them, we do not roll for detection advantage check, which is basically you roll to see who saw who first. And then based on the result of that, one side or the other might get a bonus to their initiative die rolls. when deciding where to set up on the initiative track. In this case, we do not do that. We basically surprise them, and we would get a +1 initiative die roll modifier. So let's see what we're talking about here. So 2 A-20s, so they're bombers, and they're by themselves. So this is what we'd be coming up against. They do not attack. They do have a return. They have a rear gunner on them, or not a rear gunner per se, but they have the ability to return fire on aircraft that are attacking them with a D6, but only a C damage rating. So I think this is a good chance to score some points. For each one of these, if we manage to damage them, we'll score 1 mission point. If we manage to destroy one or more of them, that would be worth, I think it's 3 mission points each for bombers. Let's see, enemy bombers. Yes, 4 mission points for destroyed bombers. So this is potentially 8 mission points here we could score with not much risk to ourselves. So I think we're going to go ahead and do this. All right, so since we're engaging in combat now, we will come over here to the operations chart. And if you recall, we are under heavy clouds, so there will only be 2 rounds of combat instead of the normal 3. And then normally we would roll to see which side gets the detection advantage. And the way that works is you look at which side has the highest pilot experience level. Like in this case, let's say we were going to roll for it. Since our highest is an ace, but their highest is only a experienced, we're 2 levels above them, so that would give us a +2 die roll modifier. And then if one side or the other is comprised of only fighters and the other is not, then that gives that side +1 advantage as well. So if we were to roll, we would get a +2 die roll modifier for the detection check. Like I said, this event specifically says that we just get a +1 to our initiative rolls. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and make the rolls to place our aircraft on the initiative track, and then we'll resolve the combat. So we're going to start with all our aces, since any that end up in the same box, aces will always go. It's basically ties are broken by pilot experience level, then aircraft performance level. So I usually roll in descending pilot experience order here. So we'll just do these 4 aces first. So we're going to roll their experience die, add their aircraft performance rating, and then add or subtract the initiative advantage gained from the detection chart. In this case, it's just a +1 for us. So this is going to end up being a D12 + 8. We rolled a 10, so he's going to be at 18. Another D12 + 8. Ooh, not so good. So he's going to be at 9. We'll jump down here to these JU87s. In this case, it's going to be a D12 + 4. That's going to be 7. Some poor rolls here. Another D12 + 4. Yikes. It's going to be 6. Then we'll do our veterans next. So we have a D12 or a D10, sorry, +9 here. Wow, continuing to roll poorly. 11. This will be a D10 + 6. 10, a little bit better. And then, actually, I should have held off on this one. So when I mentioned ties, it's actually fighters before ground attack or dive bombers or transports. And then it goes by experience roll. So if we have a fighter that ends up in this box, they'll actually go before this one. All right, so let's do our, let's go ahead and do the other fighter here for next. So that's going to be a D8 plus 6. That's 11. So you'll see here, these are in the same box. They're both fighters. So then the next tiebreaker is experience die, and this is a D10 versus a D8. So this one will go before this one. All right, now we can go ahead and do the dive bombers and then the bombers. So we've got a D10 plus 4 here. Ooh, there we go, 14. And then a D8 plus 4. Be 11. And then here we've got a D8 plus 3. We're just using their printed performance rating now. They're going to be at 6. And then this one's going to be a D8 plus 3 as well, also 6. Okay, good. Now this is going to bring something into play here because they have both of these bombers ended up in the same initiative box. They're basically paired together now for this combat. So in the next round, assuming neither one of them gets damaged, they will just make a single initiative roll and stay together in the same initiative box. Also, they provide covering fire for each other, so when one of them gets attacked, they'll both be able to return fire on the attacker. All right, so that is everyone on the initiative track. So now we can get to actually resolving the combat. I wanted to double check one thing on the order. Yeah, so it's the order is as far as breaking ties in the same box. It's fighters, then heavy fighters, then recon aircraft, then dive bombers, ground attack, then bombers, then transports. And then after that, it goes by experience, performance rating, and then if they're still tied, just a random die roll. All right, so we're going to start here with, so you basically work your way down through the initiative boxes, and then each aircraft can perform an action. So in this case, we have a fighter. If there were an enemy fighter in the same box, I could choose to do a head-on attack with them, or I could choose to attack any aircraft in the next lowest initiative box. So in this case, that's going to be all the way down here. So I'm going to have this fighter attack this bomber here. And so what we're going to do is we'll roll his experience die. And if he gets at least a 6, he will have a hit. If he gets an 8 or higher, then he'll have 2 hits. So rolling a d12, we got an 11. So we did 2 hits worth of damage. So we'll draw 2 damage chits, and because he's an A rated aircraft for damage, we'll look at the A section of the damage chits. So you'll see on this one, that's going to do 4 points of damage, and this one's also going to do 4 points of damage. So let's grab a damage marker, put it on this aircraft, and crank that up to 8. Now, once the amount of damage taken equals or exceeds the aircraft's or the pilot's experience level, that aircraft is considered destroyed. So this one's just going to destroy it right off the bat. We'll see when we do the next one. Hopefully we'll just not do enough to destroy it right out, and you'll see how that process works then. But in this case, 8 damage on an experienced pilot is enough to destroy the aircraft. So this is going to be destroyed. Now, return fire is considered simultaneous. So before he actually goes away, these are each going to get to return fire on my fighter. So we'll roll a d6 for each of them. And they only hit on a 6. We got one and then another. Return these to the pool. And then these guys do sea level damage when they hit. So we'll draw 1 damage marker. Ooh, and he got lucky. Most of the C's are 1s. They managed to get a 2. So he's going to do 2 damage back to me. So now you'll get to see how this works. Let's crank that up to 2. So whenever an aircraft takes damage, assuming it wasn't enough to destroy them outright, they then need to make a damage check. And so you'll roll your experience die, and if you roll higher than the amount of damage you've taken, then it's considered, non-trivial damage or not enough to flip it over, basically. The damage still stays on you, so it'll continue to accumulate, but it's not enough to actually consider your aircraft damaged at that point. If you roll equal to or less, then it will damage your aircraft and you'll flip it over. Or if it's already on its damaged side and you roll equal or less, it will actually destroy it. So in this case, we'll roll a d12. We got a 9, so we're safe. But as I said, this one is actually destroyed now, so we're going to put him over here. Get rid of this damage marker now. Now, when an aircraft is destroyed, you then have to roll to see what happens to the pilot/crew. So again, you'll roll the pilot's experience die. So in this case, it'll be a d8. And on the first roll is to see if they manage to bail out successfully. If you roll a 1, 2, or 3, they fail to bail out and they're killed. If they do successfully bail out, then you roll their experience die a second time, and on a 1, 2, or 3, they are captured. Higher than a 3, then they are considered to be evading, which doesn't affect enemy aircraft that are shot down, but it does affect your own aircraft. Basically, you have to roll a d3, and it takes that many days for you to make your way back to your airfield to be able to fly again. All right, so in this case, we're rolling a d8 to see if that bomber crew managed to bail out, and they did. I rolled a 7. And second roll to see if they were captured, and they evaded capture. And that's important because if the crew of aircraft you shoot down are killed or captured, then you'll gain mission points or lose mission points if it's your own as a result of that. All right, so that resolves that attack. So this aircraft now goes to the action taken box. And we move to the next in the chain. So this dive bomber now. The other option that I didn't mention is with the fighters, like I said, you can either attack head on in your same initiative box, only if it's another fighter though. Or you can attack an aircraft in the next lowest initiative box that has an enemy aircraft in it. Or you can choose to pass and just go straight to the action taken box. Let's go ahead though. I think with this dive bomber, do we want to risk? Yeah, I don't think we want to risk him getting shot at from the bomber. So I think we're just going to have him pass. I think we've got plenty of fighters here to deal with this last bomber. So we'll go down to this box next. We've got our regular 109 here that will attack this bomber. So again, we'll roll his experience die, which is a D10, looking for a 6 or even better, an 8 or higher. And we got a 4, so he missed. He does still get return fire though from the bomber, so they roll a D6 and they hit. And they did 1 point of damage. That up to 1. Now he has to do a damage check, so he'll roll a D10. He's safe. I'll go ahead and mention this now. If he had rolled a 1, anytime you roll a 1 on a damage check, no matter how much damage you've taken, that's considered a critical hit. And so of course, if you were already flipped, you're destroyed anyway. But if you were not flipped and you rolled a 1 on your damage check, not only do you get flipped, but then you have to draw an additional damage marker, apply that damage, and then do another damage check. So it's possible through a critical hit that an aircraft can be destroyed in one shot without even having to meet or exceed their pilot experience level. I've had that happen both ways in a couple of my games where I've had an ace shot down in one shot by a green pilot because made lousy damage check rolls, but I've also done it to them as well. So, all right, so that's going to resolve his action. Next we have our heavy fighter, one of the 110s. He's going to come in and do an attack. So he's an experienced pilot, so he's rolling a D8. And he missed as well. Return fire. Misses this time. You'll notice also on these 110s that they also have that down arrow underneath the aircraft artwork. They do have a rear gunner. And so just like these bombers, if this heavy fighter were to be attacked, they would get to return fire. But the return fire is always a C level hit. They wouldn't do A on the return fire. Okay. So he missed, and return fire missed as well. Let's see. We still got a couple more fighters to go after this guy. So I think we're again going to pass with our dive bomber to keep them nice and healthy for when we get to the target sector. All right, so next we have our other 110 coming in for an attack. He's a veteran, so we'll roll a D10. There we go. 2 hits on an A. This may be enough to take him out. See what we get. Ooh, we got a 5. And we got a 3. Just enough. So that's going to be 8 damage on him. I'm not going to bother putting the damage marker on there because that's enough to destroy it. He does still get return fire on us, which missed. Rolled a 4. So that is also destroyed. So at this point, because there are no other enemy aircraft on the initiative track, that would end this combat round. And since there are no other enemy aircraft, period, that's going to end the combat. So we can now return all these back to our current flight box. And tally up our mission points. So we didn't have any of our aircraft damaged or destroyed. So we're not going to lose any mission points. Oh, I forgot to roll 2 to see this second bomber. We needed to see what happened to their crew. So a D8 to see if they bailed out. They did not. They rolled a 2. That's what I usually do in that case, just so I remember. As I'll label this with KIA. So then when we go to tally the points, we can see, okay, we destroyed 2 bombers, and then we had 1 experienced pilot that was KIA. So the 2 bombers are worth 4 mission points each, so that's going to be 8. And then an experienced pilot that is KIA or captured is worth 1 mission point. Veterans are 2, and then aces are actually 5. So we got a total of 9 mission points from that encounter. And send those back to their deck. So we're going to go ahead and tally that up here. And so that's a pretty good start. All right, so now we go back to the flight phase, and we can continue our trek toward sector G1. So we'll just continue to fly due north here. Again, we need to roll for a flight event. Got a 7, which again is going to require us to roll on the chart B2 for a flight event. We got a 10 this time, so that's going to be an in-flight event card. These can sometimes be good, sometimes bad. So let's see what we get. Lost contact. That does not sound good. Fighters lose contact with the escort. I thought the fighters were the escort. I think that means the aircraft they're escorting. Formerly escorted aircraft continue to the target, rolling for flight event checks. In the case of intercept, escorts do not participate in the first round of the combat action, normal thereafter. In the case of intercept, escorts do not participate in the first round of the combat action, normal thereafter. So I think what this means is we'll continue moving our flight toward the target. But our fighters have lost contact with them. And so if they encounter anything along the way, or I assume also when they get to the target, they will be participating in the first round of combat on their own. And then starting with the second round, our escort fighters catch up to them and then join the fray. That's my understanding of how this is going to work. All right, so we'll just have to remember that. I think we'll just leave it out there for now. So we'll continue on, moving up to here. Rolling for an event, another 7. So we'll again have to roll on chart B2. And this time we got a 7, which is, we're in row 2 now. So that's going to be a 7 is enemy fighters. That doesn't sound good. So we're going to have to roll on chart C4 to see what has intercepted us. So we're rolling a D6 and to determine which Soviet squadron the fighters come from. And then they're going to get 1d3 plus 3 of fighters. So let's see how many they're going to get. Oh, good. Only 4. Let's see what squadron they're from. A 6 means they're from the 9th GIAP. Let's bring up the Soviet aircraft and get 4 of those onto here. It's going to be this, the 9th Guard. So we're drawing 4 of them. Oh boy, 3 aces and a veteran. Okay. And because of that lost contact card, our fighters, which are going to be this one, this one, this one. Yeah, that's right. We just had 3. So those 3 are going to have to sit out the first round. And so we'll roll for everybody else. Now in this case, we are going to do a detection check. So we get to see how that works. So each side has an ace, so there's no advantage there. However, the enemy has all fighters, so that's going to give us a -1 die roll. So we're rolling a d10 on chart B3 to see who has the advantage here in the first round. So hopefully we roll high. So d10 -1. Ooh, we got a 2, which makes it a 1, which means the enemy surprises you and gets +2 initiative for the first round. So they're going to get +2 added to their initiative rolls in round 1. So let's go ahead and see where they're going to be, since they're all fighters. We know they're going to win any ties. In fact, we're all heavy fighters and dive bombers, so they're definitely going to win all ties for initiative. So this is going to be a D12 +7. We got 3 of those. Oh, good. So that's going to be 8. Let's hope they all roll low. Another D12 +7. Not so lucky. That's going to be 16. Another D12 +7. It's going to be 10. This will be a D10 +7, which is 9. All right, here we go. So let's do our heavy fighters first. So they're both, no, one's a veteran, one's experienced. So we'll roll for the veteran first. That's going to be a D10 +5, 9. And then a D8 +5 is 11. Then we've got our dive bombers. So a D12 +3 is 6. Another D12 +3 is 8. Got a D10 +3. Yikes, 4. And then a D8 +3. 9. All right. Now, even though these two have both have rear gunners, they do not cover each other. I'm pretty sure that's only bombers that are able to do that. And they will not stay together in future initiative rolls. All right, well, this is going to be scary. So the Soviets, now their fighters have the option to bypass aircraft to go after. Well, it's for bombers and transports. So if we had any bombers or transports with us, they would bypass any other fighters, dive bombers, or ground attack aircraft in order to go after those bombers or transports. So in this case, we do not. So they do not have that bypass option available to them. So they can either attack another fighter in their box head on, or attack the next lowest initiative box, which is going to be this 11. So they're going to go after this 110 here. They're rolling a D12, and they missed. Good. Now we get to return fire from our rear gunner, roll a D6, and hit on a 6. They miss as well. So they'll go to action taken. All right, that leaves us next, and we can only target this one. We'll do that. Rolling a D8. We missed as well. This does not have a rear gunner, so they will go to action taken. All right, in this case, this fighter can choose either one of these. Now, for a human player, obviously could, think about this and say, well, I want to go after this dive bomber because he's probably more valuable to them and is easier to kill because he's only an experienced pilot. But in the case of the non-player Soviet, they will prioritize damaged aircraft, so aircraft that have been flipped over undamaged. Otherwise, they'll just do a random die roll. So we'll say even roll, they're going after the 110. Odd roll, they're going after the 87. It's even, so they're going to go after this guy with a D12, and they missed. We get return fire with a D6, and miss as well. Maybe this won't be as bad as I thought it might be. Okay, in this case, we have 3 fighters in the same box. So again, it's going to prioritize fighters, then heavy fighters, then dive bombers. So this one will get to go next. They can, now again, if this were a human player, they could choose to either do a head-on attack against another fighter in their box or attack the next aircraft down. Soviet non-player will always choose to do head-on if it's available. So they're going to do a head-on attack on this 110. The way head-on attacks work is both aircraft fire at each other simultaneously, and then afterwards they both go to the action taken box. So we'll roll a D10 for their Yak 1 and a D10 for our BF 110. So their roll first. They are going to do 2 hits, and our roll, we're also doing 2 hits. So let's draw their 2 hits first. And they are a B rating. So they got a 2 and a 3. So they're doing 5 damage to us. So we'll need to roll a D10 for a damage check. And now this is where the +1 there you see comes into play for the 110s. They get a +1 die roll modifier to this damage check. Oh, we only rolled a 2. So even with the +1, that's a 3, which is less than or equal to 5. So that's going to flip us. You'll notice now that they're flipped, a couple of their ratings have degraded. They now need to roll a 10 to do 2 hits rather than an 8. And their performance has been reduced to 4. All right, so that's their damage. We also did 2 hits to them, but we're an A rating. We'll use the A box. And we have done 8 damage to them. They'll roll a d10 for their damage check. And they fail. They are also flipped. And no return fire for a head-on attack. So they will both go to the action taken. Means our dive bomber is next. We'll go ahead and have them attack this fighter since there's no threat of reprisal. So a D8. They managed 1 hit. C rating though, so it's only going to do 1 or 2 damage. Oh, we got a 2. That's nice. And they will roll a D12 for their damage check. And they pass. Action taken. Now this fighter, even though he's in the same initiative box as this dive bomber, you cannot do a head-on attack against anything other than another fighter. So they will have to go after the next aircraft in line, which is going to be this dive bomber. So they're rolling a d12 for that. And they get 2 hits. And they are a B rating. They got 2 damage and 2 more. So 4 total. For our damage check, we roll a d12 and we pass. Return fire on them. The d6, that misses. So they are done. And there are now no more enemy aircraft, so these guys are done as well. All right, for round 2, our escort fighters have seen all this going on and said, hey, we better get over there. They get to join in now. And again, because we're in heavy clouds, this is going to be the last round of combat. All right, so let's see. We'll just roll them down the line here, and we'll adjust the order if we need to. So we're starting with the detection advantage no longer applies, so these are just going to be straight initiative rolls here. So this will be a d12 plus 5, 13, a d8 plus 5, 11, a d12 plus 5, whoa, 17, d10 plus 4, 7, the d10 plus 4, 10, d8 plus 3, 6, d12 plus 5, 11. Now this is a fighter, and this is a heavy fighter, so he'll actually go before him. Plus his experience is higher too. And we've got a d12 plus 3, 5. Yikes. You're not getting good initiative rolls here. Another d12 plus 3, 9. D10 plus 3, 8. D12 plus 7. There we go. 16. D10 plus 8. 17. And D12 plus 7. There we go. 18. All right. Not terrible, but not good either. Not great. All right. So we're going to start here. So our BF-109 gunboat. We'll go after this guy. D12. And misses. Hate to see that. All right, this one we'll choose to go head on with our fighter. So they're rolling a D12, we're rolling a D10. And I just realized I forgot to draw dogfight cards at the beginning of the campaign. We get to draw, I think it's 2 dogfight cards. Yep, here it is. I skipped right over it. Oh no, 3. We can just start with 3 dogfight cards. So let's get those. We might need to want to take advantage of those. All right, so we got an Out of the Sun. We got a Thatch Weave. Not sure if that's spelled incorrectly, if that's supposed to be Thatch like Thatch, or if that's someone's name. Break formation. It's only if we have a wingman. Okay. This one requires an initiative differential of 4 or more, which I don't think we'll get to use on this one. We might have been able to last time, but I probably wouldn't have. This one requires a wingman, and this one requires a wingman. All right, so we didn't really miss out on anything there. All right, so head on here. D12 against D10. So their attack, does 2, and our attack misses. Yikes! And we only have 1 damage. So 2 damage, or 2 hits from them. B rating. So that's gonna be 4 more. That puts us up to 5. So damage check, we pass. And they both go to action taken. All right, this one now will go after him. D12, missed. This one's going to go here. D12. Oh, come on. 2 B hits, so that's going to be another 4. D8 for the damage check, but he gets a +1 because he's a 110. Oh. I wonder if that still counts as a critical, though. I need to double check that. Let's see, that's going to be under aircraft damage. Critical hit. A roll of a natural 1 for any aircraft currently on its undamaged side is considered a critical hit. Yeah, I think that's a natural 1, so it doesn't say modified. BF-110, yep. Due to their more rugged construction than single-seat fighters, the BF-110s have a +1 DRM for all minor damage and aircraft destruction die rolls. This +1 DRM does not prevent a natural 1 from flipping the aircraft to its damaged side and drawing another damaged hit. So that's still considered a critical hit. So we get to see how this works. I was hoping to be able to show it to you on a Soviet fighter and not one of mine. So he's going to flip from that because he failed the damage check. And then because it was a critical, we now draw another damage check and do another B level hit, which is going to be 3 more damage. That's going to put him up to 7. And we have to do another damage check, again with a +1, but if we roll 6 or less here, we're toast. Oh, thank you. All right, return fire with a D6. Missed. He's done. But now we're going to have a head-on fight with this guy, which might do us in. All right, so head on with this lag 3. So they roll a D12, we roll a D8. Oh, good. He missed, and we missed. That's okay. I'm just glad I survived. All right. Well, we got 3 cracks at this last damaged fighter here. So let's see if we can take it down. This one will come in rolling a D10. Missed. This one with a D12. Missed. Come on. And finally, a D10. There we go. 2 hits. He's already got 8 damage on him. Even though they're only C hits, that's still going to be enough. 1, 2. There it is. 2 damage. Puts him at 10. So he's destroyed. Then he'll check for bailout. So roll a D10 and killed. And again, normally I would label it, but so I would remember when we tally the points, but that's the end of the combat anyway, so I don't think we need to do that. So I think we're going to make a few points here. We did have 2 of our fighters get damaged. So we're going to lose 1 point each for those. However, we destroyed a fighter, which is worth 2 points. And a veteran KIA is worth 2 points. So that's 4 points total for us. -2 for our, well, and actually I don't tally these yet because they may end up getting destroyed later. So we're not going to count those yet. So for the time being, we're just going to score our 4 mission points for excuse me, destroying a fighter and a killed veteran enemy pilot. So these can all go back to their deck. Damage marker. These all come back up to our current flight box. All right, reset that back to round 1. So we scored 4. Excuse me. That's going to put us up to 13. And since we caught back up, get rid of that now. I've decided to split this episode into multiple parts since it ended up being a bit lengthy. I did want to say before we close out part 1 here that I've really been having a great time playing this game. I appreciate Dan for letting me know about it, number 1, and letting me get involved in some of the play testing here and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to this game coming out. It offers a ton of replayability with all the different missions, you know, different types of campaigns you can play. You can even play as the Soviets, and there's also a 2-player option. So really a lot of gameplay in this, and looking forward to it. So that's going to wrap up part 1 of this first episode of Nights over Stalingrad. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in part 2. Bye for now.